we're going to begin our special Board of Education meeting. It's May 18th and it's 4:35. We'll stand for a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. Like this, good. Thank you. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I have your green cards. Does anybody want to address the board? Anybody want to address the board? Okay, we're moving on. Information discussion, we're going to move right into our board workshop, which is a continuation of reviewing our strategic plan.
And before we begin that, I would just like to take you on a quick viewing of our pilot classroom. We have a pilot classroom in each one of our schools with some furniture options before we make wholesale purchases. And this one happens to be one that is resonating with the teachers that they seem to like. So I wanted you to see that. You'll also see the LED lighting and the new flooring that's going in on the classroom.
All right, Angela, that's great.
The new lighting, this is the new LED lighting. The new floor, it is a lot more comfortable, it's got a little squish to it. Yep.
This is awesome.
What they've discovered with the LED lighting is that it's washing out their smart board.
Sure.
So we're working on how to handle that, but that's why you do a pilot classroom.
Yeah.
Try to test stuff out. So you'll notice in here that we have tables that are individual. They roll, I'm just not going to unlock them. But individual, so if you need students to be working independently on their own, these can be pulled apart. These are two-person option tables. They seem to like the individuals. Teachers are liking the individuals, although what they're not liking right now is that this isn't a perfect square. So they're not liking that, but we can get them in perfect squares.
How many seats do we have in here, Suzanne?
24, 28, 32.
Which is the minimum right now,
Yep.
the norm, yeah.
Yep.
It doesn't feel too cramped though.
No,
No.
that's why this.
You know what? This looks so much better than the regular classroom with
Yeah.
the rows
Yeah.
that we had, or I had,
Yep.
you know. It's
So
much
this
more.
is obviously the two top high tops, the two top low tops, and then the individuals. One of the functions, it's neat, we went out to Steelcase and a couple different other vendors have come in and showed us their furniture. But a feature that all chairs in schools now have, that you wouldn't see it unless I probably pointed out to you, is the chairs are designed so that students can sit this way.
Ah.
So they can lean, you'll see there's a cutout in every student chair so that they can sit forwards or backwards, just depending on
What they,
what they like. There was a time you probably would have gotten in big trouble with that. But they also have a lot of flexibility to them. So for the fine micromotor movements, got wheels, so students can move around.
Does that become a distraction at all? You get reports of that, like, kids rolling around?
No, not yet. I mean, maybe when you
I
have
probably at
wholesale.
first, but then I would think it'd wear off.
you know what, I had that in my computer, in my classroom. I had wheelie chairs forever, and I've been retired 10 years. And the only thing, it's funny that you mentioned that, Todd, the only thing is, when they first started, they wanted, like, if they were turning in an assignment.
Oh, they wanted, yeah.
So let's just go, yeah, like that. And I'm going, no, we're not doing that, but, yeah.
So you're a mean teacher.
Oh,
I can attest. Yeah, my son loved you. So.
But, yeah, I mean, but the kids, I'll tell you.
Sit down. You can sit down. They're super, like I said, they're a lot more comfortable than you think. And the fact that they have that give for that student that has the wiggles. Yeah.
And you know what?
It's pretty fun.
You're retractable.
Yes, they're all telescopic legs.
I like those. Oh my
I don't
gosh.
know. Probably
It
not.
has an ergonomic
roll in the
back.
But they look like
It's
that.
I have because I have such a bad back.
So, my chairs
This
were
is
up and down.
awesome.
The kids like to play
They're
up
not,
and
I mean,
down.
if you had to sit, no, they're not bad.
These are pretty nice.
Better than those.
I like that.
The heart of the room
Not
next
gonna
door.
work?
Yeah.
Nope, I'm good, I've seen them, I've been in other schools, they got them, the kids do not, they're not disrespectful
Although I
with
have
them
to
when
say,
I'm
when I
in
was in high
class,
school,
so
the
they're good.
desks were the perfect back crackers.
I
The old side, the old desks.
One of the other features that every teacher will be receiving are these ergonomic desks that they can put their stuff in. The principals love these things. They're also telescoping, I won't mess with Melanie's. They have a spot to put, their water, whatever they need there, but they can be moving or they can have their
That's
That's
awesome.
awesome. That's really
go work with
nice,
that group, go work with that
yeah.
group.
That's awesome.
And you're not tied to a desk. This I would have really appreciated when I was
Absolutely.
teaching, because you're trying to carry 10 things. But the principals use them, they can be in the halls, they can be in the cafeterias, but still stay up on their emails and communications that they need to take care of, so. And this is the new floor, there's 3 different color choices, and they'll be assorted out through the building. And they'll have one accent wall, so this room's accent wall will be orange, there's a blue and a green, and they'll have that accent wall as well.
That's important.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is, you gotta have an accent wall.
And this is the color of the floors in all the rooms then?
Except for the accent orange.
Except
That will rotate, yeah.
Okay.
Compare it to, this is the traditional
Oh, yeah.
classroom. Yeah. And then if you want to, sit in those chairs. Uncomfortable.
Yeah, they are.
And honestly, we have students now on a much larger scale. I'm not saying bigger or round, but they don't fit into these desks very well. So.
We had the old, I'm dating myself. Anybody else have the old wooden ones?
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
You and I, right?
Well, I'm the old one here.
Still
So how many times, remember, we weren't able to wear pants until we
Inkwells?
were, yeah, well, I didn't have the inkwells. I can honestly say I didn't have that. We couldn't wear, we had to wear dresses. And so you would slide across, and I can't tell you how many times I'd be walking home, pulling a splinter out of the back of my thigh. Seriously, yeah.
I didn't know we still had chocolates.
They're hidden, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they're not the newer chalkboards. They're like a glass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because see, we each got a smart board
And
with
then
and then on either side in each classroom. So if you had more than one blackboard, I'm going to call them blackboards rather than chalkboards, they didn't take those down.
because
you
they're
know,
glass.
Yeah, it would be all kinds of problems. So that's what, and you can find creative ways to use them. I mean, obviously Kristen has.
Yeah.
So what's the plan for getting rid of the old furniture? Is that just,
Yeah, you can try to sell it, but there's a lot of it for sale right now.
yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing the same thing.
Yeah, a lot of renovations happening right now. So that's our traditional room, and then I just want to show you real quick.
Great.
Very cool.
Sherry Becker has been very accommodating, Principal Becker, to the central office staff. So right here in the renovation of this facility, this will be a common area. This whole area right here will become the commons area.
This is when we saw like a video or something
Yes.
that took us through.
Yes.
This is where it took us.
Absolutely, yep. And it had the baffles, this is all coming out. And it had those baffles and you can see the exposed ceiling. So this is going to be the main office.
Because this will be the main.
Yes, that's the
That'll be great.
Yep.
Is this the current main entrance?
No.
No, the current one is off at King.
Over there.
The Marine, middle school on one side and high school.
I'm only looking in here, so I don't know.
Where am I going?
It's, well, they come in off of King.
Yes, Castle. Come off the board. So it's saying this is personnel, assistant superintendent. This is where enrollment will happen all summer. And this was one teacher's Wait,
Mr. Babowski.
Mr. Grabowski. This is our.
Yes, thank you.
He was a wood shop.
Oh, wood shop history,
He
Yep,
was the,
wherever it took.
yep.
Yes.
Robert took. That's our conference room, Michael Walling's office. And then through here, this is our special education office. So you know where everybody's looking at. There's quite a bit of work to get us all here.
oh, you can tell.
Yeah. This is
Yeah.
still all one person.
This is what they had to do.
And
So this
is
was all
Ken's
just empty?
office.
What's that?
Before they moved this was just empty before.
Well, Rich Babowski, before he retired,
It's
this
coming in
was
or no?
where he was, but they had to empty this all out.
Yeah, but no, I mean, it wasn't,
Right,
they didn't kick somebody out.
No, they did not.
So if anyone sees my chandelier anywhere, let me get it. I gotta tidy up. So, and that's Don Krantz. Don Krantz and Nina are working at it here, and then that's a classroom.
Oh.
And that 6th hour is very
I thought-
rambunctious.
I was gonna say, does it help them quiet down, knowing that you're in the building now? No.
No, but I just wanted to show you where we're at. It took a
Yeah.
lot of work. Kirk Rizalka's department, Mock was very helpful.
We're very appreciative of them.
Yes, just getting everybody.
In their spare time, they did this.
Yes, they did.
You know?
Getting us all over here. Okay, I know we went over this ad nauseum before, so I'm not wanting to do that again, but I just wanted to remind us of what forms our work, our decision-making and our work for East China Schools. The strategic plan that we completed in 2017 gave us those 4 goals that start on page 4.
For this and the MNC now?
Yeah, this guy, yeah. And that is, goal area 1 was the PLCs. I'm sorry, goal area 1 was the MTSS. Those are the supports that we're building in to each of our grade levels. The communication and community engagement was our goal area number 2, which we've been working on with increased newsletters to our community and to our staff. Goal area number 3 was the PLCs. I didn't mention that hardly at all during my interview or anything. Goal area number 4, which is the one that is consuming the majority, and you want it to, of the work that's being done right now in the school district, and that is the consolidation of the school district through the bond initiative and the bond projects that we have going on. That right now is our focus, and that's where a lot of our team and cabinet's work is going. It's important, good, exciting work. So the other thing I just wanted, when we're talking about goal setting, the other thing I want to draw attention to is the goal reporting that is required of us by legislation, which is the 98B goal reporting. And that is the one that Michael Walling gave us an update in February, and he'll be doing it again in June with our NWEA scores, which is our chosen assessment for district growth.
So regarding
Yep.
the goal setting, and I appreciate the fact that, we've been able to realize growth with all the students. But considering the impact of COVID and where students are, is there a way to revisit the goal and see what we can do to accelerate the growth? Because, even with NWEA, we're still not positioning ourselves to be in a position where all students are fully proficient as rapidly as we do.
So that's, did everyone get the MASB outline? Okay. Okay. This is where I think the discussion that Mike just brought up that we need to talk about a little bit, and who is responsible for setting those goals. Because,
Here's some more here. I got a couple of them.
okay, those are the ones I like better. They both say the same thing,
Okay.
but these just have the wording is a little bit better.
Here, so they, Pat and I share one.
Yep, here you
Oh,
go.
Todd doesn't have one. I don't think he's got passed around.
Yeah, they must have stopped. I got some students in this class that just
Did everybody get one of these now?
don't pass it along.
I don't know if it's the same one.
They say
Is it
the
the
same
same one?
thing. They say the
Oh, they
same
do?
thing, yeah.
But everybody
One's
has
in
one.
one's in a chart,
Oh,
one's in
I was
a
just gonna
bulleted
say.
point.
Right, okay.
So, to the question, of who would set those goals. So how it happens right now is each building has those AER reports that we reviewed in November during our last time together. And in those AER reports, it outlines the 4 goals that that building is working on. The principal and their school improvement team set those goals. And then that is plugged into their school improvement plan. So these goals that were set were required as a result of COVID, that we set these goals and report to our communities how we're progressing on those goals. But normally, they're set at the building level by the school improvement teams at each one of those buildings.
And I think that's fine. The only, as a board, the overlying or underlying direction that I would hope that everybody has is that, we move to 100% proficiency. And I understand that's always a task, to get to that position. And we leave it, to you and your administration to get there.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm asking is, obviously there's been a setback with COVID. And when I look at the data that you sent out regarding the performance, basically from kindergarten through 12th grade, I mean, I see a lot of opportunities, especially in lower grade levels.
K-1, 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where if somehow we could really set some strategic goals there and maybe fund some extra people or situations, obviously, when you look at that graph there, I
And it's in
mean,
each one. So it's K-1, 2, K-1, 2.
yeah, the students in this level, I mean, obviously, that's where our quickest gain is gonna be.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. That's why this year we had the elementary interventionists, and we hired the elementary curriculum person, and this is where we're going to be able to get the greatest gains. Now, what I'm excited to see is right now NWEA spring administration is happening. NWEA typically from fall to winter is not a good indicator, or as good as indicator as fall to spring, because you get a year's worth. We're going to see what a year's has done. We're going to see better where we're at after the spring assessment has been administered. And I think when Michael Walling updates in June, we're going to have a better, I'm going to see if those triangles have reached the bars. We're going to have a real good idea of what our work is going to be next year. Because if they're still this far apart, then we really need to do exactly what you're saying and focus in on more progress monitoring, granular, instruction, and figure out where the gaps are.
But all I would suggest at the moment is, regardless of, I mean, they're probably not gonna be double digit in the spring, I would guess, because looking at the trend of the 2 data points, you might get some growth, but we're already in a position where we're partially proficient, and it seems to me we should do something substantial to.
Well, you did see, like at the last, what was the board meeting, where you saw the reading program, where the kids were doing the reading. That is specific, direct instruction on reading. Because we know that those kids in K-1, 2 are the ones that were most impacted during the COVID time. And so like I said, the elementary interventionists will be pushing out and pulling in, and the elementary curriculum director will be assisting with those supports. So I hear you and I agree with you, and I'm anxious to hear or see what the spring results show us, if we're still, at this level, or if we've made some gains with a year's worth of instruction.
So when you say spring, are you saying next spring, or are you saying
Right now.
we're gonna get results of this in
They're-
another
the
month,
students
of
are-
a full year?
Yes, the students are
So
taking
this
this,
is not really.
yeah, the students are taking the assessment right now. 24 hours after they complete the assessment, the principal can pull the reports. 48 hours, I can pull the reports. That's what's so great about this, is we can reach kids right away. We can plan for next year right away. When you take an M-STEP test, you might get it by next October. And you might. And so there's no value in guiding instruction off of that assessment.
And is M-STEP required? Is that what you guys are doing?
But it's a great, I mean, it correlates perfectly. I mean, when I,
No, it doesn't.
Because I had this, a really good example is my grandson just missed 2 days of school sick. But the first day that he was sick, he was taking M-STEP. I just think that it captures, it's a snapshot. I don't think it's really a reflection of what they've learned in total.
but if you review NWA was designed to build a correlation, at least according to them, that's relatable to the M-STEP. So if you read the packet on the NWEA, it actually will tell you whether they believe your student is going to be proficient or not.
On the state assessment, on the state
I thought it
assessment.
worked in the reverse. I thought that M-STEP was supposed to give you a projection of how they're going to progress. So I've got it backwards.
It just gives you a point in time of where they're at. There can be a lot of variables, but
The state is required by federal law to give a state assessment. Our state assessment it was MEP, is now M-STEP. We were on the path to adopt NWEA as our state assessment. The superintendent for the state of Michigan, Brian Wissam, who is leading that charge, passed away. So it has stalled out, and we're now back to M-STEP, which was on its way out. So it's, unfortunately, it's not a normed assessment. It is one that the teachers, when you hear teachers say, I don't like teaching to the test, that's the one that they're referring to. When I was a teacher, we were given, our district curriculum department gave us a stack of overhead sheets, that was where I was in the timeline, and we were required the week before MEP to spend 10 to 15 minutes of our instructional time reviewing MEP-like questions. It's prepping for the test, it's preparing. I couldn't move forward in my curriculum at that time, or work with students who were needing my help. I was required. So that's when you hear the complaints of teaching to the test, that's what you're hearing. Because they're working so hard to get these good scores in order to show that, you're doing something right, but you're not paying attention to the actual needs.
How is it different though? How is it different with the NWEA?
It's an adaptive assessment. So the students, where they fall on that continuum is where they're at in their learning. It isn't a you got it right or you got it wrong assessment. Every student on here got a few questions right, but after they got, I think it's 7 to 10 wrong, they're done with the test and then they get their score. It's a continually adaptive assessment. So on M-STEP, you're either at a certain point, you got the question right or you got it wrong. They're not going to move you up as you continue to get questions right. And it doesn't show you, there's no linear growth pattern to M-STEP, especially if you look at third graders one year and third graders the next year, that's two totally different sets of students. You got to follow third.
And that's what we kept arguing about. Well, not arguing, but discussing. You're comparing apples and oranges, with
We have to
that.
look at cohort
And it's
data.
so frustrating.
I was wondering, so even going before kindergarten, so I know that we have some, pre-K programs. Have we ever looked at the data, the effectiveness? Because really, you get a group of students, right? And they're all different levels of capabilities. And, you know, of course, you're way more knowledgeable about this than me, but I would like to see, you know, really aggressive development as early as possible, because I think it just gives them a greater commitment to learning. And my feeling is what happens is when kids, the earlier they start struggling, the faster they give up.
If they check out.
Absolutely, that's why our Young Fives program was introduced, so that we could get kids in sooner and get them instructions
Do
sooner.
we only still have that at 2?
Yeah, this year it's 2 locations.
Right.
And we'll see what our enrollment lets us do next year.
So how does one go about evaluating young fives?
They actually have their own assessments that they do coming in and going out. And then pre-kindergarten, what the teachers will do is, once the students all get there, in that first week of school, they kind of evaluate what they have and feed the classrooms to a spot where they've got different ability levels in each classroom.
How many years in are we in that program?
Young Fives?
Mhm. Just one? No.
We had 2 sections.
No, we
Isn't it?
started it a couple years ago. We started out at Palms
Did we run
first,
it
and then we opened one up,
last year's, excuse me, I don't mean open.
no, you're fine.
I know for sure. I thought we might
We
have done it before.
started it right after the discussion at the closed Palms happened. We decided that that was one way to bring
Mhm.
students in from surrounding areas to build up that enrollment, so we
Mhm.
started that program then.
I'm just wondering with COVID, did we?
Well, maybe they were out.
That's what,
year before COVID.
Yeah.
That's not good done it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure.
What was that?
I almost always need a timeline in front of me of when did we leave, when did COVID, when were we in person?
Is it before COVID, is it after COVID?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, the reason for my question is, do we have any of this data on these kids if they've been, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, they started in the, fives, or, and where are they today compared to the kids that didn't start in those programs? I think that's what we're trying to look at, to see how successful it is, and do we need to open it up to more students? I mean,
So I guess I have a question then. We're talking about the young fives, and then we have the program before that, the greats, isn't it?
GSRP?
Yeah, so how many of those kids then go into pre-K or young fives, or don't they? I mean,
I would have to find out for
is
you, I
Young
don't
K
know.
synonymous with, or Young Five synonymous with pre-K? Are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah,
or is it
Or
separate?
ECS, the special ed program would be early childhood, before they hit kindergarten, you have the ECSC, early childhood special ed program.
Well, I don't think we're talking
I
about
wasn't talking
special
though,
education.
in that.
Or autism, or.
Well, yeah, but I'm like, it's not open to everyone.
No,
Is-
that's true.
is the Great Start Readiness Program, that is,
Need.
Great Start is, yeah,
Needs
income.
based.
it's based on income, right? Okay,
So not open to everyone.
so it's not open to everybody.
So we don't want to compare to that, we want to compare
Right, so
to,
we don't,
Yeah.
right, I was just,
I believe that the reason for the program is to establish capabilities. I mean, ideally, we want to have,
well, I guess
I would
my,
like to see it offered to everybody.
For GSRP?
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, pre-K
yes.
universal.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah.
so
but again, so where do those Great Start Readiness kids go? Once they, and that program is for 3 and 4-year-olds, right? Am I correct? Okay, they can go into the pre-K program?
Kindergarten, that is their pre-K program.
That is their pre-K program, because they have maybe some special needs. Okay, all right.
I'm still confused. So GSRP is pre-K
It's
for
needs-based.
student,
Mhm.
specific students.
Correct,
Young Fives is a different program,
yes.
but are they the same?
GSFP is a federal program
Okay.
with its own curriculum.
Right,
Very
but you said those are
specific.
3 and 4. So when they're done, they go to a pre-K. Is that pre-K different than our Young Fives? I guess that's my question.
Well, there isn't a direct, some families choose to go into a pre-K program, some, we have our Little Explorers program, some choose not to do it, some can put it right into kindergarten.
So then Little Explorers is pre-K. I'm just trying to
Yes.
understand the structure.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so.
Maybe I need, let me do this, let me get, let me get a document that outlines all of our pre-K. But what I think you were driving at is you would like to see, and I think, Jean, you had a great question there about our young fives that we've been developing, what are we seeing now?
Yes.
But keep in mind, and we've been talking to teachers a lot about this too, and principals. We had 2 years of interrupted learning.
Right.
For whatever, so this was our first full year, full on, without any interruptions. And so that's why I'm excited to see this spring data. What were we able to accomplish? What kind of growth did we achieve this year while we're here every day, all day? But looking at that Young Fives data for the 2 years prior to that might not be as good as we want it to be, but I think it's still good.
I think we should look at it.
I
But
do too.
But I think that, so, I borrowed this
Yes,
for a second.
yeah.
So, earlier I asked the question of budget being about investment and, by grade level. And you can see here that, if we're gonna make aggressive investments somewhere, we can maybe get a big win there.
Right, exactly.
Yep, and so I talked to Angela Gleason, and she said on our June 7th subcommittee meeting, she's bringing that plan, or bringing that data to you about the investment for the pre-K through 3.
So we have some funds that are earmarked just for that, correct?
Remember the 31A redistribution
Yep,
that we have to
that's what I'm
do?
talking
That's,
about.
yep, we have to apply it towards the third grade reading law, third grade reading law and mathematics.
So we already have
to
some
8th grade.
funds for
Yeah.
that. But it could be a board goal to keep it up
Or make sure that, by using data,
Yeah.
this is where the.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
We're not just
I-
gonna start
I mean-
writing checks.
No, but I would say that.
Exactly.
That data needs to be twice as high as that.
what do you mean? Twice as high?
So rather than having 10 points of incremental increase, it needs to be like 20. That should be our goal, right?
Yeah.
Did they have to give a quantitative goal, or was it just they will improve?
They will improve.
So if it was this much or this much, as long as they
Yeah, we need
improved it.
quantitative. There should be different levels of quantitative.
But that's where I go back to the building school improvement plans. That's been their school improvement teams, that's been their charge to write their goals.
Yeah,
I get it, but do students get that?
I think so. I wonder why it's not the same across the whole district.
Your data's not gonna be the same
That's what I
for
was
each
gonna
building.
say.
Or because of demographics?
Yeah.
Well, now they're.
I know,
Because
see,
it should be,
yeah.
should matter on them.
No, but demographics do affect.
No,
I was just
Right,
saying, yeah.
but that's why you take more money and put it into where you need it.
Oh, no.
So,
But we need to get on to the demographic discussion, and we just need, every student needs to.
I think so too.
that's why they're written the way they're written. Every student will improve.
But,
Right.
You can't say 10,
Well, but then
Like,
if
how
you're
do you
letting
set an
me,
arbitrary number though? And I agree with what you're saying, I know what you're saying, but
And-
where's the rubric? How do we know how
I'm
much
gonna
they should
show
be
you. I will
improving in
show
a year,
you.
you know?
Glad you asked.
in a matter of.
I know,
Let me
While he's
go-
looking for that, can I ask a question? about,
Yes.
So how many 4-year-olds are currently enrolled in our district pre-K?
Maybe this one.
It's all, anything before kindergarten and pre-K, right?
That's what I was trying to.
No, pre-K means
So-
pre-kindergarten.
So then we have like GSRP.
Then you have kids.
I'm gonna wait until everybody has their.
I'm sorry.
Daycare that we can use
But
up
it's all-
until
yeah, it's all
kindergarten.
pre-kindergarten, right?
So they do give you a
So
quiz.
they do
Well, I don't think
around
it's
some
classified like
needs.
that. That's why I kept
So how are
telling
we
that
reflecting
question
it?
back again.
Yeah, I
So
guess I'm on
this is
board
what
with you
I'm
just trying
sorry,
to.
This is where we
Figure it
Well,
out.
because Mike's talking about putting resources
and this is where they
in
actually.
K-1-2.
We're just gonna.
Oh, sorry.
Because the difference with K-1-2 is it's all of our kids, right?
Down here.
Whereas
Yeah,
Anything prior to kindergarten is some kids.
Correct, I think so.
But I don't,
I think that's correct.
that's the way I'm.
Young five started last year.
it's because that way.
Young five started
2021.
last year?
So this is our
Really?
second.
That's why.
Do they, is that
So,
a tuition?
Time flies,
Is that a
right?
tuition program?
No, Young Fives is
Everything?
ours.
In
Oh,
2021?
darn.
sorry.
Okay.
That's funded by we get per pupil funding
That
for
was something new that they allowed as long as you had a designated program.
And then the GRSP is funded through.
Federally.
Federally, and that, but that's just for special needs,
Yep, for academic.
academic, economic needs.
Sorry, I
So-
probably didn't say that very well. So,
GSRP, they don't have to test a certain way, it's just all financial.
yes,
Isn't
Who
that,
qualifies
and
for
it's
the
federally
forgive me,
funded.
is that like preschool, daycare, preschool kind of?
no, it's a very strict curriculum,
Oh.
yes.
and that's not full day.
That's that one they went over at that meeting, Jeannie, up at RISA.
Yeah,
That really.
right, right.
But, and where's the young fives at now? Palms and Garden?
Palms and Pine.
And that's state funded or federally funded?
We're able to collect FTE.
Oh, okay.
That was a
Good.
change.
Is
That was
that
a change.
open to
Anyone?
anyone?
Yeah. So remember when Palms was wanting to increase their enrollment? That's where that all started. That's what Jeannie was explaining. That's where
Right.
that whole thing started. We opened up and you had to fill out the paperwork at the central office level in order to have the program.
We worked
And
real hard to.
yep,
And so we don't know how many kids are in that, or we do?
not yet. Not for, I mean, for next year?
Well, so is there 25, 27, 25?
Let me see if I can find it.
So what's your question, Ken?
That's comparative enrollments.
Well, we're
Yeah, so
talking,
young fives.
we're kind of talking two different things, but if you're talking
Young
about
fives,
improving or increasing performance at
Yep,
the pre-K
25.
level,
27 last year, 25 this year.
that's
And then how
not
come
all
there's
of
not
the
one here?
kids that are gonna end up.
It
in our
was
kindergarten.
however many we got.
You know,
We
So
distributed them to
those are the
the two
only people,
in the whole district.
okay?
So,
Yep.
But I mean.
And we don't have
I
as
guess
many
the
for next year.
the
We
whole
only have
idea
one
behind
right
that
now.
is
So
it's catching up kids that might not have
That's
the
fascinating.
same, at home skill set, you know.
So,
And I
So they can come in
yeah.
kindergarten more,
Yeah.
more people, but
Yeah.
well, and
So do we have a big pocket of
Right.
preschoolers that are not attending some form of a preschool program? I'd like,
We
I
have
mean,
to
that would be an
venture to
interesting
say
yes.
demographic to know.
Because as Lindsay was stating, so we only had 2 classrooms and it was, what did we say, 52 kids?
Yes, yes.
Where are the rest of those kids going that are in our district that could qualify for this?
What are you looking at?
for young fives?
Well, for any
There's only
preschool program.
25.
I like
Whether it's,
25.
whether it's Head
Oh, sorry, I
Start
had
or
it.
GRSP.
Oh, you know what, I'm
that's
sorry,
even-
I was looking at this for the 2 years, sorry.
Oh,
Is it not
Sorry,
advertised?
1 year was 27, next year was
A
25.
lot of people, I have to share with you though, that this, coming back to this school year,
Yeah.
a lot of people were hesitant.
Oh, yeah.
Now, next year might be a different story, you know, but there was some hesitation to enroll, especially those that young of a student. We had the same situation with kindergarten. We didn't have a high enrollment, and then over last summer, we got more enrolled. We're struggling with enrollment right now for kindergarten, hoping that over the summer we'll see it.
So, but Young Five is limited, probably based on, I mean, it's meant to be Young Five, right? You can't be 4 and be in it.
No, it's Jason. It's, what is it? You have to be 4 by, what is it?
It's kind of like the same requirements
Yes.
as kindergarten.
July, August,
September, October, and November. Your birthday has to be in one of those months.
You're kind of five.
Jason.
Yeah.
Exactly, just like
That's
you're
what,
kind of
Jason,
six.
okay.
Yeah.
And you said Jason, I'm going, what?
Yep,
Yep.
yep.
Okay.
So, but, I mean, it's.
That was the, excuse me.
No, okay.
That was the requirement to open up this program and receive the FTEs. That's,
So what kind of outreach do we have for this young five?
you mean advertising for it? Postcards, preschools, some preschools don't let us, like we tried to go in a couple of them and they don't want us to have our flyers or our information in there.
So where do most of the students attend preschool?
In St. Clair County?
No, just the ones that are coming here.
most of them are probably in some kind of a daycare.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Right?
home daycare,
I mean, it seems
Manual
like.
Lutheran has
Manual
one,
Lutheran
not
has a
just for
nice
play
one,
and
but it's-
Like
Sinclair.
that.
yeah.
There's a couple different
This
Head
is all
Start
day,
sites.
right?
Young Fives is.
I'm surprised the numbers are high.
Yeah, it's all day, it's free.
Well, I'll tell you, when you, some families don't want their
Yeah,
four-year-old
that's
there
true.
all day. I mean, there are
Right.
some don't want them to have 2 years of kindergarten. I mean,
Right.
there are, they want to keep them home another year. But I do think we've captured, you know, a nice,
Well, I'm surprised Pine River's not larger because that would be Pine River and Gearing, you would think, but.
That's
So
why we
maybe
wanted
we
to
need
see
to
that
look
as a
at-
deterrent.
yep.
Maybe we just need to look at beefing that up a
More than
little
saying
bit.
100%.
Well, somehow we have to communicate the value.
Yeah.
You know, somehow we have to communicate it, I think, a little better, the impact that it has on, you know, the early development of the child, setting them up for success. in
Right.
Kindergarten and first grade, it's, like, you know.
It's good to learn those social skills as
Mhm.
well.
Can you have the ability to break that down to where they came from,
Break down
the performance in kindergarten?
where they came
Like, for
from.
example, what preschool they came from?
I could do it by hand.
Did you guys take that information at kindergarten roundup?
If they give it to us.
And some kids don't even attend, right?
Right.
Preschool.
I would say at this year, most did not. They stayed with the COVID situation. We'll see what next year brings.
Really
Yeah.
a detrimental impact, you know, we're gonna feel the fallout for a few years to come.
Well, that's why we need to put as many things in place
Yeah.
now as we can,
Yeah.
try to get ahead of it.
And hopefully with the early childhood center, you know, the new building, maybe that will entice, who knows? I don't know.
Well, that's gonna be huge for the south end of the district because the south end has never had that down
Yeah,
there.
and so it's centrally located.
No.
So on this enrollment sheet, and the ones, you can see where the young fives are. I'd just like to bring this back out, just to remind us of, you know, why the strategic planning process started. The whole reason that we are doing many of the decisions that we're doing was because of this declining enrollment that we're experiencing. And if you look up at this year's totals, let's see, look at 8th grade, total down at the bottom.
For 2021?
Yeah, the top, the whole top,
21,
yep.
21, 22.
So the last, so you see 8th grade, right there? 300, then look at 7th grade.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it,
look at the
that's our
dramatic
bubble.
change, yeah,
Yeah, wow.
that's a big drop.
So as soon as we get that 8th grade class graduated, then we will be, then there's our new normal, right? 256, 275,
Right.
239,
But it's
263.
consistent.
Yep. And I remember when I started in this district, the fear was, I think I was, I don't remember now, let's see. They were watching, central office was watching to see if this was our new level. They were afraid it was going to continue to go down.
Level off.
Yeah, so it leveled and this is where it's at, but we still at that 8th grade have the 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is still our biggest classes, so. And then if you look down at the comparative enrollments, 14, 15, to where we are now, is that. It's been a long day. What is it? 514. Times our foundation allowance. Yeah, $4.4 million.
You actually went off?
But the exciting thing is that accumulated, or they supported, you know, the state supported funding, so.
No, it's, I mean,
We have a lot fewer kids, and we should be, I'm excited.
everything costs 10 times more, I think.
That's a product.
Is that handful or half?
I can't say. Okay, so that was, I wanted to share that data with you because we're talking about goal setting and where we want that to land. far as board versus buildings.
But just to finish on the
Yep.
goals, I mean, is it reasonable for us to be able to see quantitative goals?
You're saying you want to see like a, well, yes, I believe it is. A measurable goal is an important part of what we're doing. You just have to be careful that you're doing it by cohort and what data you're going to use.
You know,
Because you can't use MSTEP to do that.
it's the same thing, Susan.
It's not though.
The correlation is almost identical.
Well, that must just be by happenstance, because the proficiency for MSTEP changes from year to year. There's not a set proficiency. They wait to see how the kids do, and then they do the
plus or minus.
the plus or minus.
But I believe NWEA, one of their sales pitches is that it's supposed to be a correlation. They're supposed to correlate perfectly.
Well, no. What they do is they're telling you that they're aligned and that they can predict how you're gonna do on the state assessment.
There has to be a strong correlation to do that.
Or they're just trying to say product to be the state assessment.
You know, I'm not an expert on it, but it looked fairly representative, I would say.
The proficiency is different from year to year on that stuff. Or if you want quantitative, like we want our kindergartners to have 10, you know, have the growth measurement of whatever you decide to do, you'd have to, I think, look at it. Well, no, you could do it as a whole. I could support doing that as a whole.
I mean, I think two things, just going back to the goals, and obviously it's up to everybody else too, but I would like to see long-term trends. You know, I don't like short data set, one data point. You know, I like to see over the course of the years what's happening. And I would also think that the goals should be lofty, meaning you want to get kids up to 100% proficiency. I understand, you know, it's a challenge, but everybody ought to believe that's a possibility.
You can't do it on MSTEP though. It's not gonna happen because they set the curve. You could have, once MSTEP is taken, then they set what's proficient.
Okay.
Based on 50% being above it and 50% being below it.
But for example, there's schools that have 98% proficiency on MSTEP. Probably one that has 100. So as an example, Webster, I
Webster?
think that's what it is. Look at Byron Center schools.
I'll look at Byron's.
But didn't, what was his name, Leslie, say that we really should not compare? Remember what he said?
I thought he preferred NWEA.
He does.
Yeah,
And he said the problem with the MSTEP is that you tend to compare your school to another school rather than looking at specifically comparing your students' improvement from last year to the next year. And that's what he said, why he said we should be using NWEA, because you really want to look at how you are improving your students.
The growth.
Right.
We don't know that we're comparing apples to apples, like I don't know anything about Byron schools or.
Don't need to.
But that's,
Oh,
yes, I think that's what he's saying, is no matter what, you should have a high goal for your students.
Oh, I think absolutely, I agree with
So
that,
how
we
are we
should
gonna
have a
do
high
that?
goal.
NWEA sets a goal for every student when they complete the assessment. So the students all know what they're.
Yeah, I know, Susan, but what I'm saying is, if they happen to, just say they happen to fall in a not proficient category, okay, their goal is to rise 8 points over the course of the year. For me, I don't think that's acceptable.
I don't know how I feel about that. I'm 4 for 4 with kids with special ed services. I have one that has short-term memory dysfunction, she's dyslexic, she's ADHD. She's always going to be below proficient, and I have a hard time going back to her and saying, you don't cut the mustard. Even though you improved and you made progress, you're still not at that 100% point with everybody else, and
But
I don't know, I'm
but the
just not
point-
sure how I
The point
feel
of a
about
goal
that.
is not to say that all of your students need to be at 100%. It's saying, we're gonna drive the program to the absolutely best capability we can to achieve the best for every student.
Well, I
So,
agree with that.
right now-
I don't, is it realistic and, I mean,
Currently, we're in an inverse position. So definitely we can switch that.
well, we definitely want to improve, and there's always a better version of ourselves, you know, I mean, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm not sure that I'm getting exactly what you're saying. I think that we have to set a high bar for everybody. I just don't know.
Well, if you use growth instead, I think is what you're suggesting, growth rather than
Just an
if everybody
arbitrary
has to
number,
reach this
right.
bar, well, some kids are already at that bar. So
Right,
already we've
exactly.
spent this conversation and we haven't even talked about any of the kids that are already at the bar. If our goal is for everyone to be proficient and we've got 30% of kids who are already proficient, then we gotta consider them too. And then we have a special needs student who
Right.
we don't think is going to be able to reach proficiency because a 20-point gain would be amazing, but 20 points still doesn't get you
Exactly.
proficient. So
Thank you.
But
we're
here's-
That's
looking at
exactly what I
growth,
mean.
right?
With any data set, there's outliers, right? You're gonna have outliers on a data set. But by and large, you want that, the lion's share of the data to fall into a statistical area that is acceptable for the community. Like,
Yeah, I think either way, whether you focus on growth or focus on proficiency, as long as there are strategies connected to it that improve
Mhm.
instruction, improve teaching and learning, then you're gonna get
And that's
what
what
you
I
want,
was
right?
waiting
And
to
mine.
say. You want to make sure you're measuring the effectiveness of the learning strategies that you're
Right.
putting in place for each student.
Mhm.
To your point, what NWE, the biggest eye-opener for me with NWEA was when I got the data back, my students who were getting A's in my classes had little to no growth in my class. So these are the students who I thought were the ones achieving that, they got A's in, Sebula's biology or chemistry class. But based on what I was learning from their skill set, they needed more, they needed extension activities, they needed more of a challenge because they weren't growing. They were the kids that got everything done, and I said, hey, can you go run some copies for me?
Yeah, right.
They were my copy kids.
Yeah.
And so this data is critical for our teachers to get their hands on, so they can, the growth piece, they can see who needs what are the effective learning strategies that we're putting in place.
My simple point is that NWEA does both. It categorizes where the students ought to be, and it allows you to review growth. It's like a win. I don't even, I mean, it does both. And all I'm saying is that the target, by and large, should be much higher than it is now.
Do we have a target now?
To reach the growth.
To grow.
Well, right, but it's
But the growth is set by
arbitrary.
NWE. No, the growth is set by, the growth targets are set individually by NWEA. But if you're saying that the growth should be higher than what NWEA is saying,
Nope. I'm saying that if you're a student that just say you fall in the category of not proficient, NWEA is gonna set a goal for you to grow, a growth goal, okay? That growth goal may never reach proficiency.
now you've confused two terms. Proficiency is set by whom?
Let me just show you. So,
When we're judged by, like, someone's gonna move into our community, how do we compare to other schools? It's based on proficiency.
Yes. We want that.
And we,
We want to be above, really.
But I don't know anybody that doesn't want to be the top school in proficiency.
I don't know what you mean, but I think you need to define
I'm gonna
what
show you.
proficiency means.
All right, so, see this little deal right here?
Yep.
See how that, in the rows, it says proficiency?
Oh, this is the linking study.
Yeah, linking. So we're linking. That's what we're doing.
So, okay, what I can do is talk, I guess, what I can do is talk to the buildings and see what their thoughts are. I can talk to school improvement teams and see what their thoughts are in setting the goals for their schools, because this has always been their ability to set the goals for their school. If we're going to change that and say that the goal setting for achievement or proficiency is coming from the board, then I need to take that back to the teachers. That's gonna, are we gonna let the teachers set their goals? Or are we gonna have the board set them?
I mean, at the end of the day, there has to be some, in my humble opinion, some goal that says, you want to achieve 100% proficiency, or you want to be at the top of the NWA growth chart, and
I agree with that.
so if we don't establish a system like that, then there's not going to be a continuous drive to improve. Just like anything else, it's just continuous improvement. And that's why I thought, me not being an educator, the biggest opportunity to get students where we need to be is targeting the younger students.
That I agree, that's where the work is right now.
And as far as the board saying you have to do this, I don't think any of us want that. What I think we're saying
I
is,
wouldn't mind it, but
here's, what can we do to make it so that you can do your job? Where,
How can we support?
how can we
What do you need
support
from
you?
us?
And
I think using the growth goals through NWA, excuse me, I can't remember, is spot on. It's spot on. It's individualized. If the students don't meet the growth goals, then during the data digs in each of the schools, when the teachers and the principals sit down, they go through after the assessment and say, Suzanne, Pat, Jeannie, they didn't meet their growth goal. They need to be pulled out of whatever class or pushed in. We need an interventionist in with them during math. They didn't meet their math growth goals. NWEA drills down to the specific tasks that they're not, whether it's fractions or decimals, and they can work specifically on that, so when they take it next time, they can then reach their growth goal. But that growth goal continues to be reset each time a student takes that assessment. Because there's some years, you can only get a year's worth of growth in a year. I have the perfect book for you if you want to read it.
I do.
A student, no matter how much, there's only so much learning that can occur in growth for a student in a set amount of time. You can't grow more than that in a year.
I agree with you, and that's why we need to do as much as possible to have every student starting at the same point. So right now, just say you have A, B, C, D, E level starting. Okay, E being the worst. If you have students in that category and their growth goal is incremental, they're rarely going to reach a higher level.
Not if you continually, because that resets itself. So if you get them to
They're always going to
their
be
growth
better.
goal, then the growth goal then resets to a higher to get it and
And-
continually
and so does
adjust.
the
That's
So do you want to
what-
see more intervention than for those?
Yes.
That's where you're talking
More
money,
intense.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because that doesn't happen in a classroom teacher of 28 to 32
No,
kids.
no.
You gotta have that extra support
Right.
built in
Right.
to intervene. And that's where you're talking the money part. Yeah. Or the
And
program.
Just to go back to the principal thing, or each building. So as a district, isn't there a whole goal of, like, that everybody should be A, and you just mean that we're gonna filter different interventions at each school based on what they need?
Wait, say
Or,
that
because you
again.
keep saying, like, then it goes back to the schools.
It's a school decision, school improvement team decision. So each school has a school improvement team that sits down, looks at their data, and sets their goals for the year. I think, at the last time we met, I pulled all the AER reports, which are the reports we're required to give the state to show the goals that they've set. But it's based on their building data.
Do we still have a district school improvement team? Because we used to have a district.
We haven't for the past couple of years, but it's not a bad thing to pull to. We look at the data differently in different groups, yeah.
I just would think the whole district should want to be toward the same goals. Every school should be as good as the next, and if one school needs more intervention than the other elementary, then that's okay.
Mhm.
You know, funding should go to that one, but it should be.
And that we do that in an indirect, well, it's a direct way. So if a school is needed, like Belleville is a title facility, so it receives more funding, it gets more support, and that's based on, you know, the needs there. So there is targeted support. In the district, we will move interventionists based on need, you know, if a classroom has, or a building has more needs, then they actually have forms where the teachers fill in when they need help, and that's where they go. So our resources are going where they're needed. They're not fixed, unless you're a classroom teacher, then you're fixed. But the supports are flexible.
My personal view is we need to work on creating a vision that where everybody understands that, you know, we want to be top shelf.
I think that's where the rigor comes in. We do want, rigorous curriculum that, supports whatever the educational goals are. I guess I can't even define what concerns me. I think we have to set that high bar, and I agree with you completely. I mean, it does need to be a high bar. But I also understand that, kids aren't number two pencils. They're all different, and there's going to be a different level of progress. A kid making a C might be a miracle for that kid. And a child making an A, no big deal, because he's an easy learner. So I guess that where it comes back to for me is that I don't want anybody lost in the shuffle, I guess. I think that, well, I think what it is that appeals to me about the NWEA is it just seems like the personalized reflection of progress, and understanding that not everybody is going to be that A achiever. Doesn't mean that you set a low bar, but you're also realistic about the progress that they're making. Not everybody's A caliber, that's just the way that it is.
And that's fine. The only issue is that there's a lot of students that can be.
Absolutely.
Where their potential probably isn't recognized because the NWEA, there's not enough intervention to take them to that level. And I read a bunch of stuff on that trails, the U of M study, and one of the key issues that they outlined, not necessarily with our school, but was academic stress. When students start to feel stressed academically, they shut down. And that's why I keep going back to the early childhood stuff, because if we can start kids at as close to the same level as possible, regardless of socioeconomic situations, then everybody has a shot.
You're right there. You're spot on.
So then I had asked you about the 3 different programs, and asked you to explain those.
Mhm.
Maybe that would help us.
So the programs that you were asking about, the summer intervention programs, so this falls under, when I was talking workshop and our strategic plan, this falls under the MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, category 1. The summer intervention programs for all students in grades K through 12 was, we have credit recovery for grades 9 through 12, in person with an online platform. K-8, at-risk students that are identified on NWEA by the counselor and or teacher. This is an in-person instruction, not an online platform. So those are students that are referred for summer school, K through 8.
Is that to make up classes that they didn't do well in, or is that to
To work
prepare
on-
them
to work on instructional pieces that they are either lacking or have gaps in.
And was that not open to all students?
No.
Because, no, I mean, how come?
It's identifying our students who have gaps or at risk based on their NW. So those are the students we were just talking about.
Right, exactly.
They didn't reach their growth goal, then they were referred to summer school, summer work.
And
or
that
what's
at
called
both ends
school.
of the district?
Pardon me?
They're at both ends of the district, or?
Well, they're offered, we're waiting to see how we can support it with staff, but it will be offered, and if not, will be transportation provided.
Only because of with COVID, we know everybody's behind.
So then,
So,
there is an enrichment for grades 6 through 8, science and math focus, which will be in-person and project-based, so that would fit that.
well,
For
yeah,
a
I mean,
few
I'm,
grades.
just thinking of my own kids that,
So what level would they have to be at for that acknowledgement to,
My guess, and I don't know for sure, but it would be that they didn't reach their growth goal.
like, at all? Or I mean,
When they're taking their spring assessment right now.
if they
So
were-
once they compile that data, if they didn't reach their goal for the school year and are recommended by counselor and or teacher, then they would be recommended to. Now, you understand that some families are not going to take that opportunity, even though the recommendation was made.
But for example, just going back to the NWEA, so you have different levels of, so just say you're an A student and you have a higher level of expectation to meet. So if you don't meet that goal, then you're referred to the summer program too?
Well, that's why the other teacher and counselor piece is in there. So it would be taken on an individual basis, but if you just didn't perform on your NWEA, but you seem to be meeting all the content expectations in your classes, I'm not sure they would be referred for at-risk summer school. And then we do have an elementary enrichment that was offered, but we're working on a hire there. We haven't found that, that's pending hiring.
And that's this summer too?
Yes, And so that's all the summer work right now.
And during the period of time when students are taking the NWEA, how are parents informed that, you know, they're not meeting the requirements?
There is a parent report, and I know we talked about sending it home. I don't know if they did it, but
I
during.
feel like a
parent-
bad parent because
Is there a place on Skyward
I-
also that they can,
Well, not on Skyward, but I think each principal will send home, and we're taking NW in the newsletters, it's NWEA, here's, you know, the links or the, but let me firm that up. You've asked me that before.
I remember having a second notification, but I don't remember anything.
NWEA.
Because I'll tell you, you know, just from a, you know, if a parent gets their step score back for their student, and just say that they're not proficient, I think the parents are gonna be like pretty disappointed. And I think the information going back to them, you know, we need to make sure it's pretty solid.
Agreed. Yeah, I will follow. And then for academic after-school programs, to provide students the opportunity to be successful. Currently, this is for this school year, Marine City High School ran Tuesdays and Thursdays in person with an online platform with a counselor in the room, but she also offered it any day of the week. She said, Tuesday and Thursday were my set days, but if they wanted to come on Wednesday, she said, I would always accommodate any student that wanted to come in.
And what, that was like 2020 or,
Yeah, yes, an online platform, yep,
so that was part of recovery.
yes. Or no, they can move forward too, if they wanted to like take their health class or something and get it out of the way, they can do that too. Sinclair High School advertised every day after school in person with the same online platform. Sinclair Middle School had a National Honor Society tutoring on Wednesdays. Marine City Middle School has what they call a harpoon club for students who struggle especially with organization. It's a neat club. You get all the supplies donated and help kids put together their binders and organize their homework.
And Kristen, you said that?
Yeah. Yeah. And Andy Shield has it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have some additional after-school funding that's becoming available next year that we'll implement some more. Now, keeping in mind that, staffing is always one of the, hard things to do right now, to get people to work.
Start people out there. We can't even find teachers, and I think, I don't know why the public just doesn't understand that. I mean, it's out there, so, we're trying everything we can.
Well, and I can share, I have a daughter at Sinclair Middle, and a couple classes when she was struggling or needed additional help, I just reached out to the teacher, and there was different ways that she could have gotten help, whether it was with an older student or with the teacher themselves, or the NHS tutoring, and so.
They knew to do that. What about parents that might not know to do that?
To reach out and get help.
Are we letting them know that help's available?
I know that the St. Clair Middle School newsletter that goes home to all the families for St. Clair Middle School has a big graphic in there about the NHS tutoring on Wednesdays.
All our schools should be doing that.
Yeah, I think in each of their newsletters, they have whatever their opportunities are. And I know the one for St. Clair Middle always says any student. You don't need to make an appointment, you don't need to sign up, you can just show up.
wouldn't it be just worthwhile to tell the students, say, hey, there's some National Honor Society kids that.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they don't in the classes. Like, I don't know, if they're communicating it during their seminar, or, if a student is struggling, if that isn't an option. Because when I asked, that's what, I was directed that way, so. I think there's plenty of opportunity, whether or not it's being taken advantage of all the time, that I don't know.
Or maybe if, the teachers are being proactive, I don't know. Suggesting to the parents that there's programs and services out there.
Well, I know what's really been neat this year, I don't know if anyone else, so, my daughter is home right now, she's ill, Google Classroom. It actually had, I know, actually,
What?
Trying to get us sick.
I know, I'll wipe out the whole board in one foul swoop. But when I contacted her teachers to let them, she'd be out, they said, I put everything in Google Classroom, to make sure she's, where's she going? Go get on your Google Classroom. And so that's been helpful too. And I'm not saying that happens for every parent, but that is just another layer. She doesn't have to wait till she gets to, she doesn't have to wait to get there to pick anything up. And we'll continue to make that a little more robust, but that was one of the nice things about COVID. All right, I have something kind of exciting to share with you. Are you ready for something exciting?
Yeah. Did I want to grab something to eat?
Yeah, we'll take a break real quick. I'm taking a 5-minute break.
Just
There's
a minute to
restroom.
grab a plate, and we'll just kind of working.
Then I'll tell you that salad was really good. Okay, so in front of you, the easiest thing to do is kind of separate it and put 2022, 2023 on your left side and 24, 25 on your right side. And what you have in front of you, I received at almost 11 p.m. on Friday night, is the timeline for our massive bond project, the scope of our whole project. So the Innovation Center, our early childhood center, the green shows that we're in construction phase right now, and the star is when we are slated to take occupancy of that building. The furniture installation is in the brackets. You'll see that this first project, the Innovation Center and Early Childhood Center, has its brackets and its star together. It's going to be a tight fit, but the Early Childhood Center is opening in the fall. So we have to have it ready to go in the fall. So that's where their focus is. And so fall of 2022, For sure, the Early Childhood Center, the Innovation Center might lag behind that just a little bit. Then the next project that is almost done with design is the orange. Almost done with design there, and then construction will begin this summer once the kids leave. But look at the length of that line. So the star doesn't happen until November of 2024. And that is due to the phasing that has to occur in this facility, because they're gonna do one part of the building and then move the kids to another side, and then do that part, and then move the kids again. And I taught in a building that was under renovation like this, and I remember teaching, and the Vis Queen would be on one side of me, and then after Christmas, the Vis Queen was on the other side of me,
Right.
and so that's just part
We
of.
had that here
Did
a
you?
couple different times.
Yep, it was, so the Marine City 612 campus is set to be complete right now in November of 2024. Then the St. Clair Gym Edition, which they just started last week, they got some barrier walls up because they're starting the locker room demolition. That St. Clair Gym Edition should be complete in April of 2023. And then we move on to the St. Clair campus renovations. We have done a little design work, but the major design work will start in June, completing in December, and then the construction phase goes all the way until September of 2024, when they can take occupancy of that building. The Performing Arts Center, we're just starting to talk to Dave Simpson because of the amount of activities and things that happen in the PAC. We got to work around. We don't want our kids not to have the PAC when they need the PAC, so we're working around all of that. But that's going to be rigging and lighting, should be done in July of 2023. And then St. Clair Elementary, which is currently our St. Clair Middle School, that is the last one that will be done, and that's September of 2025. It's a big project.
No, that's funny because it's like the newest school.
I know. Being renovated to an elementary facility. And then we have Palms and Pine on here. They'll be working in conjunction together. And then you'll notice that Bell River they call it's a pull ahead. They're going to pull it ahead of the other projects. And the reason for that is, first of all, it needs especially some exterior work done. And because Marine City campus will be under construction, the crews and the materials can be delivered to the approximately, I think we're right across the street from each other here. So they're hoping to take advantage of the crews at the Marine City campus to complete.
Save us some money too.
Yep, to complete the Bell River campus, which then would be done in August of 2023. And then the last project is our maintenance and transportation building. That's just some technology upgrades, and that should all be done by May of 2023. So there. So we're about a school year behind right now from when we originally thought. But
Well, given the circumstances, that's understandable.
Yep.
I would
And
hope it'd be understandable.
so we'll see how it goes, with supply chain issues and
There's so
workforce.
many things that are out of our control.
You know what,
You can try to control it the best you can, but
plan.
we have a plan.
Yep. So so when we're, again, tying this all back to our work that we completed in 2017 with those 4 goals for our school district, this one is the one that of all your superintendent and all your cabinet members, this is a lot of what they are, working on right now. Craig Headley and Kirk Rizalka, I cannot, thank them enough for the amount of hours and time that they're putting into making sure these projects are done right. I attended a, hardware meeting that, I'm not kidding you, lasted 3.5 hours. Making sure that we had the correct hardware for all the doors and windows and, oh boy. So many districts will hire someone to lead their bond project development. We decided early on, between Craig, Kirk, Dawn, myself, that we wanted it to be ours, so that the decisions would make sense for our school district and our communities. And so we didn't hire someone to do that. So that was something I was excited to share with you guys, because I know everyone's kind of been wondering.
Is this going to be at a regular meeting, so the community will?
It's going to be in the newsletter. The Innovation Center. So this is the first project that is on our scope of work. This right here is the early childhood. So this is Meisner Road where my pen is. There will be a new loop coming in through here. So the drop off for the early childhood center. That's the entrance. They'll have their own offices and own sally port or safe and secure entrance.
Where's Meisner? I'm sorry, Susan.
Right here, where my
Okay,
pen is. This is
gotcha.
Meisner.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. These are the new classrooms that were built. These are the ones that were renovated. This is the former board room that is now the gross motor room for these, for the early childhood center. If you're moving down the hallway from the early childhood center, these are the administrative offices. They are only receiving paint on the walls, LED lighting, and new technology and furniture. So there's no renovations being done in there.
When are you moving back into?
We're supposed to be moving back in August, but we told them today in our OAC meeting that this is your focus. Make sure this is done.
Yeah.
Because we get,
Oh, good. Thank you.
because we have to get the early childhood center open. So if we have to wait longer, we have to wait longer.
And what's the capacity then?
Of the early childhood center,
Yeah.
well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9 classrooms.
Should be 20, right?
Yeah, should be all right.
Room for growth.
That was the plan.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the plan. This is the administration wing. This is the old business office. So you're walking this way. We used to go out, like right here. This is the new enrollment office. So when people come in, they can enroll their students right there. This is a courtyard between what's currently there and the new build. As you come through here, this is all new. So this is all the new build. This is the new Board of Education room, or our new conference PD room that is connected by a double door to the Performing Arts Center. When we talked to the fine arts, to the band and choir, the band in particular wanted to make sure that we had a double door here so they can use this as a staging room for performances. It will have acoustical tile around the room. And they can get their tubas through there. They wanted to make sure it was wide enough that they could get the instruments through the door. So that connection will be there to the Performing Arts Center. This is the curriculum offices. So Michael Walling and the elementary curriculum coordinator will be housed here. This is lovingly called the front porch by the TMP, by the architects, but it's just a conjugating area. These are classrooms. There's 1, 2, 3, and then you have your STEM rooms, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have 3 classrooms down here, 1, 2, 3. This is a computer lab type of setup at this end, and we envision right now that our drop-in, our Michigan Virtual, or our CVA, East China Virtual Academy, could be housed in this area. Right now, they're currently housed here at Rain City.
So if the students are coming in by bus from one of the
Right here.
high schools, they're coming here?
Here,
Okay,
yep.
So that's there.
So there's 2 main entrances. This is the early childhood entrance, and this would be the entrances to use this facility. We're envisioning that employees
No, go ahead.
will park out here, the stadium is down here, and we'll come in through the door that we have been coming in to go to the administrative
And you said
offices.
this is enrollment?
Enrollment.
So those people will come
Yes,
into
come in through there.
So
So
what
what's,
signage and all
Yep.
that stuff?
oh yeah, there's quite a bit of signage, and what's nice is both have secure entrances. So this way and this way, no one's getting into this facility, and they'll all be key carded for employees, so,
But there are doors on those
Mhm.
classrooms.
yes. Yep, and this was an office here at the end of this hallway that had to be opened up for emergency exit. So that's opened up now. I tried to go in the other day, but they're still not allowing us to walk around in there. I know they're finishing the pouring of this floor.
What are our thoughts at this point on what we're gonna do with that space?
Well, if we remember the conversations, originally went for the consolidated high school in order to meet that needs of our strategic plan, pulling our resources together. Then we went back, when that didn't pass, and we went back to the drawing board and we're thinking, how can we still do what we wanted to do, which was to continue to offer robust opportunities for students with a declining enrollment. So what this allows us to do is have our students, so right now, I think I shared, we run AP Chem and AP Bio on an alternating, I'm sorry, AP Chem and AP Physics on an alternating schedule here at Green City. We don't have, right now, we're looking at our master schedules going up, we don't have enough to run that. We have 8 in our AP Computer Science classes. That's not going to be enough, we can't run a class with 8 kids. So what this will allow us to do is combine those students from both ends of our school district and take our classes here. It will also, by having those STEAM classrooms, open up opportunities that we don't have. Like I should have showed you when we went and toured where our offices are now. The CNC machine is in a closet down there, because that's where we could support it and that's where it would go. That CNC machine is going to go into one of our STEAM rooms down here and open up some more
But we don't, like, we're making master schedules right now.
for next year.
Right, so, but we haven't scheduled these
We're not gonna-
classrooms
no.
into our master schedule for next year.
Not for next year because they're not anywhere near ready. They haven't poured it.
Well, maybe not for fall, but what about the second semester?
If we get it to the point and the furniture's there and we think we could run, anything, I would like to see that. I had a meeting, I think I shared in the board update, I went to Magna and talked to their plant manager there. They're interested in a partnership on many different levels, everything from internship to co-op to, they run a curriculum, they have their own, that maybe we could be a part of. And I have a meeting Friday with Cargill plant manager to see if maybe we can create a partnership with Cargill and some co-opting. I would like to see us have more of those type of opportunities for students.
Students gonna take horseback from campus, between campuses.
Did you just say horseback?
Oh,
Well, I know, I was kind of hoping that we pretend that we were gonna open it up this fall and just see what that schedule would look like, or what our course offerings for our students are. Are we soliciting the kids to see what extra programs maybe they want to see, other than just the AP classes?
Well, we currently in our course catalog have classes that we can't run, that kids want. This will allow us to run those classes. So right now, we're informing students that some of our classes that they wanted, that they
Are going to be
selected
opening back up?
are-
But I was
Okay.
wondering about the transportation.
Well, transportation is not a problem midday.
Yeah, but I
It's
mean,
before and after, so I know people say, oh, you're short on bus
no,
drivers.
but what I'm
but-
saying is that there's, it takes, by the time everybody gets adjusted and, probably take 10, 15 minutes to.
Oh, you mean,
Yeah, we talked about at one time, like, you need to be there for a couple hours, it wouldn't make logistical sense to go there for 1 hour, right?
No.
You're on the bus
It-
for a
It's gonna be a
half an
2-hour
hour.
walk,
two
to 3.
Yeah, we'll use, so when I said earlier that we're about one school year behind, in the development of our bond project due to COVID and various other, but before the teachers and administrators leave this year, we are going to form our alternate schedule committee. I'm going to solicit to see who wants to be on the alternate schedule committee. And we'll develop our thoughts and ideas around that. I've been on and led many, many different alternate schedule committees, and the number one thing you do is you set your goals. Why do you want to change the variable of time? What is it that you're trying to accomplish? And what we're gonna try to accomplish is to transport kids here. So that will be our driving force in the discussion. And the other piece of an alternate schedule, as I understand our mission, is to offer more opportunities to students, because right now they can only have 6. If they go to career tech, we're down to 3. If they have band and choir, so kids, if we ran an alternate 8-day, or an alternate 8 schedule, excuse me, we are opening up more slots, more selections for them to take
I
more
think that's
classes.
huge. I think we need to focus on that.
I think those are our 2 driving forces, right? We want to get them physically to the location where they can take these classes, and then we want them to have more opportunities in a schedule that will allow that. A 660 just doesn't give you that kind of flexibility.
And we already have all the personnel, staff to run the kind of programs you're talking about.
Yeah, we're, yes, to answer your question simply, yes.
And when will the teachers start getting input and learning how to use block scheduling?
Well, once you decide on the schedule that you want to run, because like I said, the first thing you do is you set your goals. Why are we looking at a different schedule? So our goals are to get kids physically to a different location and to give them more choices in their schedule. Then you look at how you can do that. And so one of the schedules that I've worked on with, we blocked 3 days a week, and then we had 660s on either end. So that would look different in your professional development and then an alternating 8, which is 4 and 4. So it depends where we land, what kind of professional development that we'll need. But block schedules have been around for decades, so there's plenty of PD or opportunities to
So
figure out how to use.
our teachers gonna be on that scheduling committee?
Yeah,
along
they are
with the
going to drive
administrators?
it, yeah.
Do you have a committee set up yet, or?
No, I was just saying that before the end of the school year, I'm going to solicit folks that want to be a part of those discussions. The only
That takes
criteria is,
quite a bit of time to learn how to do that.
the development of the schedule itself is, well, I was going to say it's about 50-50. Takes, a lot of discussion. You don't want to talk, 50 minutes here, 50 minutes there first. Talk about what you're trying to accomplish first. And then you start talking about the minutes, and then you got to fit it into, some parameters of contracts and things like that. And then you talk about, well, okay, now you have 75-minute blocks or 90, whatever they end up being. How do we work? How do we teach in those situations? What do you mean? What do we need to change? What do we need to be the same? And so that's usually how that progresses.
And then all the change in prep time and stuff will all be negotiated and talked
You have to
about.
follow all the contractual obligations, yeah.
We did, I thought we piloted that here, didn't we, back in the late 90s? We did that with 9th graders.
No,
Well,
that was blocking.
down here,
We had, for the 9th grade, we had teams. And and within the teams, then
They consolidate, yeah,
they were doing like, maybe they'd have English for
yeah,
2 hours, like on
Exactly.
a Tuesday,
Yeah.
Thursday, or a Monday.
yeah.
But the team of teachers got together and said, okay, what are you doing this week? I need, maybe a history teacher needed maybe a 2-hour block where they're normally an hour, that type of thing. Yeah, I don't know if Sinclair did it, but
We did them here.
Marine City did. I think we did it for 3 or 4
We
years.
did. I have to tell, I loved it. I loved
Why did
for
you
my,
stop?
for my kids, it was a good thing.
It's normally administrative, if you change administrators. They don't, that's what I've seen.
Yeah, and, well, plus the fact, it took a few more teachers.
And that's
It's
And-
wonderful.
block scheduling, to me, seems like it'll be an increase in cost.
I know.
But I think
I
it was
would-
a benefit, though. That's just my opinion.
Well, I'll show you the cost of going to a black schedule. You're not, there's so many different ways to do it that if you put a barrier in front before you even begin the discussion on it, then you're never gonna get where you wanna go. So one of the things that, and I'm not saying, oh, what time do you talk to that about? What time you gotta be there?
It starts at 7, so.
Okay. One of the things, and I was the union rep for my building, and we negotiated a flat schedule, and in order to do it, we had to have 1 day with no prep. But we so wanted the longer class periods, that's what my union decided that they were willing to give it a try. And they're still there. It was 20 some odd years ago, they're still running that same schedule, because the benefits far outweighed, the things that they had to give up, because you're not gonna get everything you want. So you have to kind of decide what's important to you and work what direction you want to head, so. I just don't, sometimes people like to do that and say, oh, it costs too much, or you can't do it. If you say that first, you're never going to get to where you want to be, which is to physically get kids here and offer more opportunities.
Well, and this is what's best for kids, and that drives every
That's our
decision
number
we
one
make.
goal.
So that's just, you figure out the money.
Yeah, like I said,
Not that it's not a concern, I'm not trying to blow it
No.
off, but,
nor would I, because
No,
I'm responsible
I know,
for
but
that.
you figure it out.
Yep, it's exciting when you start talking about.
And the kids are excited.
Yes. In a 9th grade, I taught in a 9th grade academy, and we did that same thing. So if I had a lab that took a little bit longer, I would tell my cohorts, can I have the kids for an hour and a half? And oh yeah. It's, the time, the variable time is ours to manipulate, to our advantage. So I'm excited, and I'm excited for the discussion, so. What else do we have on our, bond program development, investment resource strategies, pre-K, MTSS, goal setting we discussed, and then just that the communication and trust piece that I, want to make sure I'm understanding, what you need as a board, so I provide a board update.
Is everybody reading the board updates? Okay.
I'm gonna send a quiz.
Yeah.
Make sure you're
There will
proficient.
be
I
a
figured you
test.
sent if you open the email, that lets you know that.
No, actually don't, no, I should know, shouldn't I? Read receipt. And that's what I've done, and followed in the footsteps, of the previous administration. If you would like additional information, I think I'd like our subcommittee for budget. I think that's a good one. I would like to.
And the subcommittee needs to report to the board on a regular basis, whether it's monthly or every other month, or,
Well, how about after every meeting, just the
That's
minutes?
yeah, depending on if there's anything discussed, yeah.
Sometimes I've seen it done where the board president will call and then the subcommittee chair and
Yeah.
give a report for us, and sometimes they
They
say
do,
yes, and
yeah.
sometimes they say no, and
Right.
then they move on to the next subcommittee. I requested from President Frank a subcommittee on policy. I think that I would.
Academics, then we can have.
Yeah, Mike, we're waiting on you.
Wait on me.
Yeah, you, bud, waiting on
I'm
you.
like Mr. Flexible.
Well, I'm gonna go back and re-text you the last text I sent you. Hey, when do you want to start that committee?
So what do we have? We have like budget and finance, policy, and then you're talking about curriculum, academics, okay. Which is like your curriculum committee.
I would do curriculum, because then you can discuss, the supports that you're thinking.
Yeah.
You see the data that shows you
Yeah.
need a new reading program, and let's explore our options there. And then policy. Ever exciting policy.
Yeah, I think it's time for that.
These should have a monthly meeting schedule as well, right?
Yep.
Turns out I haven't holding it up.
Going
What about
back to the
building
board update, I liked Todd's idea when you let us know who you communicated with, if you would include that.
I have it.
I feel like it's kind of hit or miss, because we'll get an email or something from somebody and then not know if there's a response to it, and then we'll, you know what I mean? I don't feel like we've gotten everything. Like there was this, the parent with the special ed issue, that we've gotten responses recently, but when we first got emails, we got a couple, and they were long and many of them, and we didn't hear anything about that. And then more recently, now we have. I think it's just consistency
Well,
on that.
and in that particular circumstance, I'm gonna be careful with my words.
You have to be careful.
Yep,
And this is where we have to be able to trust each other, and there has to be a respect for confidentiality when it comes to names of families in our district that can't be discussed. It's like a HIPAA for health, but it's HERPA.
Yeah, it's urban, yeah.
That's the term for it, but.
they're,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've had some problems in the past, and we're continuing to have problems. So that's contributing to this communication piece. I want everybody to know that. That's a contributor to it.
so,
Wait, in what way?
Sometimes I think for
I mean, I
me,
guess, what do you mean?
I think what they're saying is that periodically there's confidential information that maybe shouldn't be shared
Exactly.
outright with the community, and sometimes it somehow squeaks out.
Well, but it's difficult if they're addressing us as the full board and saying, we're not getting a response.
Yeah. I'm
And so
not saying-
I want to know, have you addressed it?
yep.
Well, and you
that's-
should, and that's what you should do.
No.
What you cannot do is talk to anybody outside
Right.
of these 8 people. And that's what's happening.
well, and I think the response, just like, in that situation, it might be as simple as, received an email, or, received this email on this date, made a phone call on this date, I guess in my mind, like, we just said, at least, you know, like, I get this email or whatever, and I don't know anything more about it, and what is the response? So maybe there's a lot more to it that I don't need to know the whole response, but maybe I just know that, hey, a phone call was made to address it, or there was a meeting held, or whatever, just.
So
And I-
so that the follow-up is,
It-
you know, that
Sometimes
it's
it's
been
good for us to
responded.
know the answers.
Yeah, if that's
So that
possible.
we
honestly.
can
If it's possible.
give the same message.
If it's possible. So the example that is given when MASB gives training, to new board members or to board members and superintendents is you function as a board. And, your power or your ability to make change in policy as a district is as a full board, not as an individual. So if anyone were to walk up to you, like at the grocery, at the produce station, and says, I don't like those proficiency scores. What are you doing about that? Your role at that point is to redirect them back to the superintendent of the school district or to another, administrator or maybe to the board president, but it's not to answer that question. So what's occurring is sometimes those questions are getting answered and they need to be directed to me so that I can answer them, or if I don't have the answer, then I can find the information and get the answer. Because otherwise you're fractured, I talked to Mike and he said, we're gonna get a new reading program, but then I talked to Libby and, they're gonna use EBSA. That's, the messaging has to always be redirected back to me, always. So if somebody calls you, if somebody, and looping your board president into that communication so that she can keep me on did you make
For
sure?
accountability.
Yes, did you do this? Did you follow up with that email? Did you?
Well, and the same goes for requesting information. If you want information from a department, you have to go through the superintendent and me, because these department heads don't work for us. They work for her. She works for us. So if you need something, you go here and CC me so that I know what's going on, and we have the accountability thing. That you put administrators or employees in an awkward position when a board member comes to them for information. They're not really supposed to be talking to us, so they don't want to be disrespectful to us, so we're just putting them in a bad position.
And they're instructed to, they like it because they don't, when you contact them directly, they're like, ooh, you know. And so they let me know right away, you know, that a board member contacted me, here's how I responded, and if you need to follow up, you know.
Yeah, it's not to try to not give the information, that's not it at all, at all. It's just the proper chain of command procedures.
And confidentiality.
But Suzanne, when there's questions about elections and things like that, it's easier to answer someone than to say, well, why don't you call the superintendent? Because I can tell you the answer will be, I'm not calling her. You know what I mean? No one's gonna call the superintendent to ask you know, how many people are running, how many, you know what I mean?
Call the county
So-
clerk for that, really.
Right.
I think
Or I
it is
can
though.
say, there's 2 people running for 6 years and 1 people.
Well, I mean, you can
one
have
person.
conversations,
Right.
Yeah.
just simple conversations.
Yeah.
That's not the
It's the
issue.
generic information that's been published.
Yeah.
If it's published, if it's public, then
You
That's-
quote what's been published.
I think it is somehow, maybe you already have it, but, you know, a database that collects the questions with a timestamp and collects the response with a timestamp. You know, the only issue that I have periodically, and it's not even very often, sometimes people will take issue with the timing of a response. And I think it's worthwhile that just the timing of the response, you know, if it's 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever it is, you know, we should let people know what it's gonna be and try to stick to that.
Yeah, being acknowledged.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
also good to track the time. We actually did that once in last cruise because it just became so time consuming. With just, you know, pulling data, and you can imagine, I mean, the size of the district that, you know, I came from. We actually did a study on it so we could show why, you know, we needed to take, you know, the 10 or 15 days, you know, for FOIA, because it's not only the one, it's the 10 that you might be, you know, pulling data for or, you know, working on. And it also depends on the technology. I mean, we're just now getting up to snuff with the technology out here, so I can just imagine a lot of stuff is still being done by hand here, as opposed to just being able to export information from a database.
I just think setting expectations for people, you know, I don't care what is acceptable for you, you know, so you just say it's 4 days on a question. And if people know it's 4 days, I think they can live with it. They just want it within 4 days, that's all.
And I had talked to Suzanne and Jeannie about changing our website and saying something like that, and Craig's gonna do a new website, and then Suzanne said she would.
I don't think people read it.
When they send us a letter,
I know, but
they have to, as long as it says right there, you will not receive 7 letters back.
Auto response.
Yeah,
If they-
You just
Right.
need an auto response.
Yeah, that says that the board president will.
But generally
take care
speaking,
of
I don't think people care about 7. Yeah, I just think they want a response back, and then if they don't get the response back in the time they think is necessary, they're wondering what the hell the rest of us are doing.
Right, I think sometimes their expectations are not real.
Well, we have to set them, we should. like I said,
Right,
I like it.
Yeah.
right.
As long as you
I
let
agree
people
with that.
know.
On the website, you can get a form system with all of the routings and the auto
Yeah,
response.
We're very
Yeah.
excited about
Okay.
when we can
You'll be able to
transfer
do
over,
it.
yeah. It'll be very nice. And I'm in agreement with that.
I would like somehow to speak about the misinformation that when the people with their green cards come up and accuse us of things that we, for instance, you know, we get paid. That's the easiest one, that's the simplest one.
What's a good example?
And I'm just gonna leave it at that, because I could really get going, and I'm not going to. You know, none of us have ever gotten paid. And to say that we line our pockets, that just, you know, if they, and I'm not saying people can't speak, that's not what I'm saying at all. And everybody can speak their mind, whatever they want. But it's very frustrating when they come up and they just accuse us of things that are inaccurate, and then it's out there, and then it goes on Facebook, and then it starts a whole big conversation of other things. Well, you know, they need to be audited. Well, if you would go out to our website, there's like 10 years of audits. We have to be audited. It's a requirement. And, I mean, I don't mind a good, healthy conversation, but I get a little frustrated, you know, being called a drug dealer, you know, things like that. So I just wish there was somehow, and I know, well, that's all I'm gonna say, because I don't want to say anything more.
Well, it's hard to sit there and not rebut. That's very hard when, you know.
Yeah, we get beat up.
Well, you know,
And I mean, I know this
certain
is-
things, you know, were
this is a-
blatantly false, you know, some, even numbers that are put out there, like supposedly something cost X amount of money, which we know that that's not the case.
Just do your homework. You know, don't come up and just start, you know, saying all these things. But I realize that, you know, there's two sides. We are elected official, we need to have thick skin. I get it. But I'm a little frustrated with all the inaccurate information.
But so, just a question, but, you know, I don't know why it's not possible for us to take these, some of these questionable things that people are, statements they're making, document them, and then at the beginning of the next board meeting, just have a simple response.
We kind of do that in a way, not maybe as, we're not taking it as far as what you're recommending, which we can, but we do that in a way as far as having a report at the next meeting that touches on some of the things that the people have brought to us at the prior meeting. So we'll talk about it, and then, you know, like when mental health was a big issue, and there was a lot of people that brought it up during one of our first, I think, in-person meetings after COVID. We had a report on that at the next board meeting, showing the community everything that our teachers and our staff and our interventionists and counselors were doing. So we work on that as, just so everybody knows, we do work on that, but we can look at touching on some things.
I would like that, because I don't like having all that inaccurate information out there. And I don't want to engage, because, you know how they come up and they go, wow.
It's to be a fight.
And you know that, you know, so you say something back, well, then they're gonna respond, and nothing is gonna get resolved. And then it'll just be a free-for-all on YouTube, my space, your space, their space, everybody's space. And I think some people enjoy that. They don't want us to be united. And really bothers me, because, and this is the last thing I'm gonna say, I think every single one of us that are here, we are here because we are trying to do what's best for kids. And I think this board is very lucky that we have educated people, we have former teachers. We don't always understand everything, but I think the community should feel very fortunate, business leaders, and that's all I'm gonna say. I promise.
I hope not.
Well, you know, the other thing too, and I do agree, some things should come back in the form of a, you know, some kind of a response or presentation at the next board meeting. There might even just be a factoid page. Some things you don't want to grow feet from the meeting.
You gotta be careful.
So I loved how you immediately responded to that one issue, and huge. It was really the right way, the right thing to do, and I so much appreciated that, because I felt such an immediate defusing of the whole issue on social media. It just answered, it made a lot of people happy. So maybe there's a way to do, you know, just via the district website, like a factoid page from last night's meeting, or factoid page from, you know, and some answers are one sentence long, and it may even address the multiple different email messages to the board or to the superintendent that, you know, sometimes people are asking the same question. And it's great when they come to the board meeting and somebody asks it. Thank heavens, instead of just talking about it on social media, come to the board meeting, ask that question, and give, you know, the board or the superintendent, you know, the opportunity to respond to it, rather than just sharing it all over social media, like the whole thing with, you know, came paid vacations to Cancun.
Oh, yeah.
That was, I think, my favorite, but,
I mean, sometimes you gotta chuckle at some stuff.
Oh, I know, some of
but
it's
some
just
people,
ridiculous.
unfortunately, some people.
Or just don't be on.
It's
but-
fair, it's
I don't really
just,
have to worry about it at all.
well, but you know, it's out, you know how you gotta, kinda have to, because it's the way, you wanna kinda keep your thumb on what's going on out there and how people feel about things. I think sometimes it's important. Well, I care about what, I really do care about what they think, and I hate to see, when you see staff attacked, I mean, we had teachers that were being attacked, and it was just really awful. I just, so maybe there's a way that we can diffuse some things, just, you know, if they can't wait until next month, just keep that little factoid, page.
I am gonna say something else. Only because, and I know Suzanne, and when we had all your meetings for the bond, our voters were told that money cannot be used to maintain buildings. And that was the other thing that was very frustrating. Well, we gave them money 2 years ago, they're mismanaging the money. We can't use bond money to repair a boiler, or this or that. And then it was also, well, why didn't we do the sinking fund, last year, or the.
In November.
Eh,
That's what.
Yeah, well, it wasn't up, I mean,
It's
then
because-
people would be upset about that, and,
Yeah, I kind of felt that no matter where that would have been placed prior to its
wouldn't have-
expiration, it wouldn't have been the right place.
Right.
It would have been, we were
So, I
trying to
mean,
bury it in
again,
November, it would have been. well,
again, they didn't have their facts straight, but the bond was,
Okay,
They
but-
take it and they run with it, and then it gets posted out.
So we know
But this
this.
isn't anything.
So we know
I
this.
know it's nothing new.
So what we can do is fill the void of information. So what are we gonna do with the money? Share with people
Well,
and say what we're
And
gonna
I think maybe, we've thrown around some good ideas, that at the next board meeting, maybe, address or give answers to some of this, I don't know.
Is Paul Dingman gonna tape us next week?
June, July, August.
So not next week?
No, June, July, August. Good luck, or not good luck, it's already, congratulations.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Tom.
What'd you get?
His
That's
son
it,
has
honors
honors.
for St. Clair High School.
Oh, okay, all right.
Thanks.
See you Monday.
Oh, I was gonna say, the agenda sequencing, I really love where that landed.
Yeah.
I think that is great. It gives everybody an opportunity to have, say what they
I really
need to
like
say, but it also gives the district the ability to do their presentations prior to the public comments, because so many times, I remember public comment would be occurring, and we'd be sitting there, oh, we're gonna present this next, I wish we would have had a chance to say it first, so that everybody had, so this, I really appreciate
Well, and you know
that.
what? We don't need our students sitting there listening to some of this stuff.
No,
really.
and they need to get home,
They do.
yeah.
Hey, it's real life.
Yeah, I know, but
Just protect them as long as you can.
yeah, only children for so long.
Right, they don't need to,
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, so,
I mean, we
I
can-
think that's, for me personally, when I have information I want to share, and I hear people up there upset about something that I'm gonna help them understand in the next segment, I'm like,
Right.
oh, I wish I could say it now. So that, I'm glad that's gonna change. But still before votes, so
Yeah.
the public still has the opportunity to share with the board their
Absolutely.
feelings before you take any action, so
Mhm.
I think that's good.
That's a good way to do it.
Talking about the agenda, can we put, what's up next? We used to have that at the bottom, what was gonna come up on the next one. Can we get that put back on there?
Yeah, I can talk to Constable.
And then our
What do you
workshops. It used to say next month at the bottom. And then if we had,
Retirement rewards or whatever the next,
Oh.
what might be happening.
like there are certain things that happen,
Like it's defined by the calendar. It's the-
yeah, that
It's
happens every year.
like, you know,
Well, we haven't done that in a long time. Yeah, we can look at it.
so like on the May calendar, if we do truth and budget in June, I'm assuming. So, you might put on the May calendar, truth and June,
Yeah.
truth and, what we know that is always the same time every year. That reminds people that certain things are coming up, audit review.
And then we're gonna have quarterly workshops. So are we gonna like set months that we're gonna have them or certain dates or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do 4 a year, at least.
Okay, great.
That's awesome. I really like
Yeah.
that.
I think so.
I like that a lot.
I have only one other small request. So, we did put a lot of effort into the social emotional learning aspect. If we could get an update on whether students, are feeling some relief or not, how has it impacted them and has it helped?
That'd be,
Yes, I agree, it's important for us to monitor our efforts in that area. I'm just wondering how to collect the data, maybe in a survey. Yeah,
I don't know.
Talk to Michael.
I don't even, it could be that, you have the social workers, maybe they had so many meetings and now they have fewer meetings. I don't know, something that
Yeah, I know, I hear
indicates
you.
that
Yeah.
we're helping them.
That's a good idea,
I like that.
Although I want them to have more meetings if
Yeah.
you had extra time, you better be. But
Well,
yeah,
I don't think it would necessarily they have extra time. They could then do something else, with that time. Maybe they were doing 20 kids a week, and now they're only doing 10, but they can offer their services somewhere else, so. But I like that idea. I mean, we
It'd be
want to
nice
make
to
sure our
know,
kids
maybe-
are healthy.
Sure.
Tomorrow's Mental Awareness Day, by the way, right on a
Yep,
poster
we're
coming
green.
in. We're green.
So like we could solicit information, you think, via survey from different groups, from staff, maybe from students, and maybe even parents?
yes, I think
Ask
a
them-
survey might be the
I think
best,
that'd be wonderful.
best way to do it. I don't know if right now is a good time.
No.
May.
Not to say after.
But yeah, I think that's a good thing. We had a very nice professional development on Friday around calm classroom, trauma-informed instruction, and the elementary worked on the reading program. We had a speaker on from California, so it was a really nice day, really nice day.
There's just some things that occasionally I think that may not be important, that I would like to see the actual impact on, people. Just like presenting and stuff. I'm not sure how those work, but I would like to know if they work.
Well, and I think that data point wouldn't come from one source, We would hope to see increased engagement, we'd hope to see attendance go up, we'd hope to see grades go up, I don't think you're gonna
Attention
see,
Lots of different measures.
yeah, I think the data sources are gonna come from different,
Yeah, I like data.
I know.
Mike's our data person.
Yep, and it's interesting to look at, Well, I met with the counselors this week from the district, and we talked about, what they're seeing and what they're hoping for next year, so that was good. They're always the heart of, what's happening in a school district, so. They reported to me, they're worried about attendance. Seems like since COVID, attendance is struggling, and deadlines and those kinds of things are.
Can we just implement the normal policy in prior to COVID?
Yes, but it's not backed by MDE.
When do they plan on backing it?
It's not content knowledge. As long as you can show you can be content knowledge, but
What do you mean, they're not comprehensive anymore?
they're not forced.
But when you talk about Michigan Department of Education, what does he guess?
County attendance officer, do
Yeah.
you can.
Yeah.
Well, you can just call CPS, you don't have to call the.
They're not responding.
harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the people.
No, I mean, because you're not getting your child to school.
Yeah, in extreme cases,
Yes.
that's
And
been,
it will get,
Yeah.
it will eventually usually be in the attendance officer, but usually.
yeah. We discussed how important it's gonna be at the start of the school year, just to really set your tone and expectations right away. You know, here's what you expect, here's how things are gonna be handled, you know, to get it off the ground in a strong manner. Because right now, it's
It's still like, I still feel like we're in like a fallout phase, like it's not over.
No, I
It
think
really
we
isn't
are.
over. And I think, you know, like you said, like the attendance, you
Yeah,
know.
that's-
it's-
that's their biggest
They were used
worry,
to being
so-
home and
when a counselor tells you to worry about
Yeah.
something, that's what you need to worry
it's
about.
just getting into school.
Well, we went through the phasing of, you know, the state decided to close everything. So, and then they decided to give everybody that year, and they decided to give, you know, so they're just used to, some students are just used to that being the norm.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get my, you know, grade or my, and so we just have to reset expectations.
Or maybe some enticements,
Yeah, you're gonna flunk if you don't do it.
not an ultimatum, but, you know, it's, I don't know,
Make it
like,
engaging.
well, you know, like we give the perfect attendance, something.
Right.
But then the
Or-
sick kid
Oh,
comes
years-
to school and infects everybody. because they
You know,
don't
years
miss it.
ago,
Or then
years ago, our PTO at Yax Elementary in Harrison Township,
parents
I believe years ago, we gave savings funds, $25 savings fund at the end of the year to students with perfect attendance. That was 100 years ago, you know.
Yeah.
But
my
they
kid gets
did used to do
braces and he
things,
has to
yeah.
go
Well, I
and.
don't mean perfect
Tough luck.
attendance, I just mean, you know.
that was an example of something, but you
Yeah.
could do.
Things have just changed so much, you know.
Of
It was easy.
like what I said with Google Classroom, you know, my daughter is very sick, and so she's doing her work on Google Classroom, but if you kind of needed a mental health day, or you wanted to stay home, can you just put it in Google Classroom? They'll do it while they're at home.
I love Google
I
Classroom. You know, not
I don't like
all,
that.
not everyone is fully utilizing it. So I wish, you know, there was,
It
I
has
wish it
so
was
many
consistent.
positives, but it's being, some folks are using it differently as a replacement for being here.
I just think.
So
it's-
much to work on.
Are we gonna talk about the sinking fund?
It's going to be brought to the budget committee on the 7th.
Okay.
So going back to the committee, so we're gonna have budget, policy, curriculum. Can I just suggest consideration of two others? Like the labor and contract, there's always labor issue. I mean, there's always something going on with that. Building and site, I mean, while we're having a bond, you know, initiative, I don't know if it has to be permanent for a district our size, that you would need a permanent committee. It might be able to just be handled through the budget committee or finance committee. But at least during the bond program, you might want a building and site. Consider that, you know, especially once we're really into construction, because of change orders and, you know, things like that. You might find it helpful.
Those are good suggestions. My only trepidation would be the number of meetings that we're trying to.
Yeah, you know,
They meet once a month is all, and it's usually, you
But if
know,
they're
the week
each
before
once
the
a
day.
month, I mean, sorry, give me a couple of you. If they're each once a month, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
well, there's only so many board members that can sit on a committee, and then, I mean, most of us are sitting on more than one now. I think maybe the labor and content, maybe that could go hand in hand with the budget. We could make that a combined committee.
We'll assign, you know, 2 board members to each committee.
Yeah, we could talk about it.
I'm just thinking, like I said, building and site you may not need on a permanent basis, because, you know, we're relatively small, larger districts, it's a permanent fixture, but,
Right.
and that's just kind of a fancy word for maintenance and operations, really, you know, for issues with that. But during the bond issue, there will definitely be cause that may be beneficial.
In Lance Cruz, was there 7 on the board or 9?
7.
7.
Everybody pretty good? Can we wrap it up at 7?
I'm sorry, I need to end time for.
Anybody have anything else?
Just that I so enjoy this.
No, I think
Very
we,
helpful.
I had one other, I don't know, we'll talk about that later. Making fun, communication.
All right, so I have 6:54
I
PM.
do have one item.
Oh, 6:55.
Just, are we transitioning to policy from viola to
True.
term?
Yes,
So do we know when we're going to start doing that?
immediately. That's why I need a committee.
That's why we have that.
June
Awesome.
is there.
That's exciting.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited.
No,
Um,
not at all.
So, and I really like term. I did a lot of work with them. So that's
And there, you know,
exciting.
yeah, I think that's great. I'm looking forward to getting that started as soon as possible.
Okay, everybody set now? Lindsay?
6:50.
Okay, all right.
6:55.
Sure.
Thank you.
Everybody, very much.
Thank you.